Hello, I'm Dr. Dennis McKenna. Welcome to another edition of Inside Albany Med. And I've been looking forward to this for a while. I'm here with Dr. Ariel Jadovich. How did I do? Did I do okay?
Very well.
I want to make sure I get it right.
It sounded right.
And you are a physician scientist here at Albany Med.
That's
and
right.
It's my real privilege and pleasure to talk to you today. I've been looking forward to doing this for a while.
Thank you very much.
Let's begin. I think people may know you in two different parts of our campus. Let's start, first of all, you're a physician, you're an MD. You are in our Division of Pulmonary and Critical Care Medicine. You treat patients in our hospital.
That's right.
And I know you spend time in the ICU as well as treating pulmonary patients.
That's correct.
Talk a little bit about that first.
So I am a physician. I am born and raised in Argentina and came to the United States more than 20 years ago, pursuing a dream of combining my medical knowledge with discovery science. That is an opportunity that doesn't happen for the most part anywhere in the world. It's only the United States that gives that career path. So that is the reason why I came. Initially, I came to Chicago. I immigrated to Chicago and I trained in Chicago, lived for 10 years there, and trained initially as an internal medicine doctor, internist, and then I pursued training in pulmonary and critical care medicine at Northwestern.
Right.
And then I decided to relocate to Albany because Albany Med gave me the opportunity to pursue my career here.
And let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You came to Albany, and as I started to talk about, some people may know you as a physician who treats patients in the hospital.
Right.
One of the reasons why you're a fascinating person to talk to is you also spend time in the research labs in the Department of Molecular and Cellular Physiology, and you do, as you described, discovery science, working alongside our researchers on areas inside the lab.
Correct.
I think some people may describe that as translational research. Am I
Right.
correct?
Yes.
You do work in the lab, and then you also will study how that affects patient care at the bedside, and you serve both of those roles.
That's right. That's right. So I received in Chicago a special training in which I completed all the didactics and the curriculum associated with the training, the full training as a pulmonary and critical care physician. I am board certified in both specialties. Also a secondary module dedicated to discovery science. So I had to spend a few years also training how to run experiments, how to design hypotheses. The whole idea is that as a physician, you are better equipped to recognize the real world problems
Right.
that happen to people. So you're not thinking science in the vacuum, you're thinking science based on what makes people suffer in the real world,
Right.
because you see that every single day you take care of people. And that is a source of inspiration and imagination to build up novel ideas, hopefully to be able to help these people in the future.
Now, we are, and we talk about this in our videos a lot, we are what's called an academic medical center
Right.
here. Very unique. We're the only one in 25 counties. That means that we have a tripartite mission. We do clinical care, we do education, we do research. And you do all three. You are essentially a triple threat, the
Right.
classic triple threat
Right.
in academics. You are obviously heavily involved on the clinical side, but you're
Right.
also involved on the research side, and of course you teach.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit about how you balance those two? I mean, when you're in the lab, are you thinking about the bedside? When you're at the bedside, are you thinking about the lab? How does that work?
Yes, all the time. Indeed, most of my motivation to do one thing or the other is the counterpart. So my inspiration to take care of people comes from stuff that I find in the laboratory, and my inspiration to conduct experiments in the lab comes from my experience interacting with patients. And the same thing goes for education. So I get the passion to transmit what I learned to younger people. Yep. Based on what I've seen with patients and what I've seen with in my laboratory. So it's a very kind of interdependent dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you're in the intensive care unit caring for patients, I don't think your research projects grind to a halt. So
Right.
you must have a lot of help teammates who are still doing some of that work, so it allows you to move back and forth between the two.
That's very true. Actually, this institution is, based on my experience, is remarkably welcoming to collaborative work. So I found relatively easy to conduct my research focused on patients. Initially in the ICU, my very first project year was conducted in the ICU, in part thanks to the collaborative work, not only contributed by nurses and colleagues, but also by patients. Patients are very significant in their altruistic interest in helping other people, and they take part in our research projects based on that, and that is something that remarkably I found it very easy to accomplish here in Albany Med.
It's a wonderful thing what you just said, and bears repeating, that in order for us to do the research we do, it involves the patients and their willingness to be enrolled in the study.
That's right.
And that takes research assistants, that takes an IRB, that takes a compliance department, statisticians, so many people involved in all of that.
Right.
I think people, when they see this video, when they hear your name, they're going to say, I know I've heard about some of the work that you've done. Mm-hmm. The work that I think many of us are familiar with is the work that you did with COVID. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about that. Mm-hmm. Let me back up. How many different peer-reviewed journal articles or abstracts have you been involved with in your career?
Well, I have about 50 articles so far.
That's a lot.
Yes, indexed in the U.S. government system that is called PubMed. Most of them were generated here in Albany Med.
Right.
So since I joined the institution, I was able to consolidate many of my ideas into articles that are peer-reviewed and published and cited by other scientists and researchers in the world,
contributing to the knowledge base
exactly
around the world. When COVID first started, some of the research you were doing certainly became more familiar to me and others, because it was a landmark study. It was a groundbreaking study.
Right.
It had to do with, if I'm not mistaken, epigenetics and long COVID. Can you talk a little bit for the average listener, what it was that you were studying?
Right. Initially, the initial study when the pandemic came was to try to find out in the blood, in the circulating blood that you can access with a blood sample, molecules that could better facilitate the characterization of the disease. So acute COVID infection was a very opaque disease. Nobody knew exactly what was that about. And we made a very important contribution initially to make a very granular description of the molecules that are circulating in the blood. That ended up being published in a paper that so far has been cited more than 600 times. A very impactful paper published in Cell Systems, is a major journal in the field, and generated here in Albany Med.
So you took patients that you were treating in the intensive care unit with COVID.
That's right.
And you were, with their consent, you were taking their blood and you were analyzing it at the genetic level to see whether or not there was some predictors as to who would get sick or sicker or develop complications.
Yes, that's right. Those were molecules, not necessarily genes. There were other type of molecules, transcripts and proteins and lipids circulating in the blood. That was the initial story. But then we started to realize that many patients were not fully recovering from lingering symptoms after having suffered COVID infection, despite having resolved the COVID infection. That ended up being named as long hauler or long COVID or PASC. There are multiple ways of calling that, but there's something that we didn't see coming because nobody knew that was going to be the case. So we started to analyze then genetic modifications associated with that disease, and that led to multiple other publications, and eventually led to a major federal government grant that we received here in Albany Med, and we still have that is based on those observations that acute COVID infection eventually leaves some type of footprint in the body that can be identified with this methodology.
Well, honestly, we could talk about this all day, but to me, it's just a wonderful story. We're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of the COVID pandemic, and we've been reflecting a lot about what happened on this campus, whether it be the clinical care we provided, sourcing supplies, being the first in the area to vaccinate individuals or roll out various therapies. But it's important to point out that while all that was happening, there was also very significant academic research being done by you and PhD scientists in our lab on the research related to COVID. And that influenced things not just on this campus, but really probably throughout the world. So that's incredible. So congratulations to you and your team for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Let me change gears for a little bit. You mentioned why you came to Albany Med. What is the reason that keeps you here? Why do you stay here?
Well, personally, I would say that I love this place. The reason why I do is because like I mentioned before, I came to the United States from Argentina pursuing a dream, a life dream, and this institution has given me the opportunity to fulfill that dream, and has maintained its commitment to keep supporting our projects, and that is the main source of inspiration and motivation for me to remain here. Wow. I don't have I cannot imagine at this personal stage in my career leaving this institution, because this is where I have everything.
Well, we're certainly happy you are here.
Thank you.
Let's also just talk for a moment about what you like to do outside of work. We were talking a little bit before. You're a bibliophile. You love to read.
Yes.
I think you said fiction was your
favorite.
I read
fiction, yes.
How much do you read? Do you read a lot?
Yeah, I read something like 20, 30 books a year, something like that. Yeah. So it's not a lot.
Always fiction?
For the most part. I read some history books as well, but the most, interesting part for me.
Is there a particular genre in fiction that you like?
Most of the times I read American fiction.
Right.
The last book I read is actually a British English writer, Ian McEwan. Wonderful book. Atonement is the title. But for the most part, I read American fiction. And
I'm sure we have a lot of people who watch this who like to read.
Yes.
Would you be willing to offer a couple of your favorite books as well, besides Atonement, that you've read, just in case people say, okay, I'm going to take his lead, I'm going to read that.
Sure.
If you read 30 books a year, you probably have a pretty good base to draw from.
Yes, definitely. So
let's see if I've read any of them.
There's one that is fantastic that I recommend. It's called 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Absolutely.
Another one that I recently read is a book by Salman Rushdie. It's called Victory City. Beautiful, beautiful book as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a couple people could read those.
All right.
I would put on the list Pillars of the Earth. I don't know if you've ever read that.
Mm-hmm.
Lonesome Dove. I don't know if you've read those. Those are two works of fiction that I enjoy reading as well. So,
wonderful.
Yeah, very good. And then what else do you like to do outside of work? You have a family locally?
I have a family, yes. So I stay with my family. I am a family man, call it a way. So I spend a lot of time with my family. And
good for you. Good for you.
Enjoy this beautiful area.
Well, I just think it's a great chance for people at Albany Med to just kind of peek behind the curtains a little bit, to learn a little bit about you. Again, somebody who one day could be taking care of patients in our intensive care unit, the next day could be in the lab. Going back and forth between the two is not something that a lot of our physicians do here. There are others that do it, and they're remarkable just like you are as well. But I think it was a great chance for me to kind of talk to you, and to thank you and your team for the incredible work you did studying the epigenetics with the COVID. And let me just ask you, well, maybe end on this. What's next for you? What's the next area of research that you're focusing in on?
Okay, so there are two things. First and foremost, before COVID came, I had already a laboratory established in COPD. Right, COPD.
So we have I knew that.
Right, so we have a very exciting area of research that is rapidly expanding on the way the body metabolizes food in the context of of these conditions. So that is one area that is rapidly expanding. And another thing is that we are trying to go from these molecular characterizations of the blood into other body compartments. For example, we are trying to now investigate changes of the molecular features that happen in people with pleural effusions when they have pneumonias. It's a work that is being done in collaboration with another physician here in Albany Med, Dr. Amit Chopra.
Sure.
Yeah, so
Chopra.
he's leading a major effort in pleural diseases as well. We are going to try to move our infrastructure and knowledge in how to fully characterize these molecules that are in the blood into the pleural compartment to see if we can advance the field as well.
Wow. No deficit of work ahead of you. Lots of great ideas, lots of great things happening.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here. We appreciate for all you do to contribute to all three parts of our mission, and I look forward to other people learning about you as well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for bringing me.